So it's been a little while since I did a collection update for the GameCube with some new pickups, but I have a couple here. Some of these I got from Too Many Games, which is a video game convention that I attended pretty recently. And then the other two are games that I had ordered on eBay that I figured we would kind of check all of this out together. And actually, I did find a game that I've been looking for quite a while, not necessarily at the gaming convention, but actually on the way home. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with this video sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by Factor. Look, it's hot outside right now, so the last thing I want to do is stand over a hot stove for an hour cooking dinner. Factor makes this way easier with fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your doorstep. Factor takes the guesswork out of grocery shopping and meal prep, saving you a ton of time. Meals come together in just a few minutes and taste amazing. I like to keep track of what I'm eating, and it can be difficult to do so when you decide to order out to save time. But with Factor, you know what ingredients you're getting. Like many of you, I'm always on the go during the day, so grabbing a Factor meal to take with me has made lunch a quick and easy part of the day. You can also amp up your Factor order with add-ons like energy bites, veggie sides, juices, and more. Head to go.factor75.com/SpawnWave120 and use code SpawnWave120 to get $120 off. That's go.factor75.com/SpawnWave120 and use code SpawnWave120 to get $120 off. Once again, thanks to Factor for sponsoring today's video.
So first of all, as many of you have realized by now, the market around GameCube, PS1, Vita is just out of control. Like, the line for it is just straight up right now. I thought we were at like a pivotal moment at the end of December last year, and then here we are 7 months later, and it's only gone up like another 30–40%. I don't know if we're at the point where the bubble will finally burst, but I gotta at least say, with some of the higher end GameCube games, doesn't seem like it. I actually got to a point where I had to get one of those hard acrylic cases for Gotcha Force, because it's to the point now where I feel like I even have to protect the thing because it just keeps going up in value. Anyway though, let's talk about some of the games I got here, because I didn't really shoot for like a super expensive pickup, but I got a few. One in particular is really important to me with kind of the history of it. But let's start with some of the more common games that I picked up. And that starts with Top Gun. Now, I will be putting some gameplay footage over these games here and there, and I use the HDMI out, the Eon adapter, so you should get a pretty good picture, at least representation of the game. No idea about this one. When I was at Too Many Games, they had a table that did buy two, get the third free. So when I see that, I attempt to go for some of the more mid-range titles, because I feel like, hey, you might as well take a deal there and not have to pay the shipping that you would on eBay that can push some of those prices up. This one is complete, as all of these will be. And I assume this is just kind of like an Ace Combat style game, but it's from the generation where I think they were still trying to figure out how like fighter jets and stuff worked with the controller. So again, this is more of just kind of a piece for the collection to help fill it out. And then as part of that deal, I also got Burnout, like the original one. Burnout Revenge is still my favorite. And when I started playing this one, it is a bit more simplistic. You can kind of tell that they were just getting things started with this one. It has like the Criterion logo at the top here. We got renderware. This did actually look pretty good through that HDMI out connection. Supported progressive scan, which was really cool, and kind of just driving around, crashing into stuff. The only issue I have with this one is I like some of the disc art that we get with the GameCube titles, because sometimes they'll take advantage of like the top just kind of being that that silver or that reflective CD kind of quality. This just looks like something that you would have printed out on like your old like CD label creator back in the day with like a Hewlett-Packard. And then finally we have Legends of Wrestling 2. During this generation, each system had like its own line of wrestling games. I know with the Xbox they had Raw, and then like WrestleMania. The GameCube had Day of Reckoning, and then PlayStation had SmackDown. But Legends of Wrestling was just across all platforms. That includes the second one. I feel like each one had a different like color scheme. Like the GameCube had like the bluish purple. I believe the PS2 had red, and then I think the Xbox had green, and they may have had some exclusives for each thing. So I think this is just more of an arcadey wrestling game here, where the others, at least they try to be more simulation based. I mean, just based on the The screenshots back here, it looks like they tried to make them a bit more cartoony looking and then make them larger than life. And then we have the one that I think was the most expensive purchase from that weekend at Too Many Games, and that is Mortal Kombat Deception. I was a little shocked at how expensive this game has gotten over time. I mean, I wasn't even paying attention, and that's kind of how it is with a lot of these GameCube games that were at one point like mid-range, and they slowly crept their way up to being just a more expensive title overall. But Mortal Kombat Deception is awesome. This is, I know we had, Armageddon as well during that generation, but I just remember Deception fondly because this is when they went off the rails. They had like chess combat, they had puzzle combat, I think we had like, we had like kart racing and stuff. They just got really out there and didn't take any of this seriously at all, whereas with Deadly Alliance, they were trying to be pretty serious about it. This also had like the Conquest Adventure mode introduced, but this right here was just such an awesome Mortal Kombat game for its time. So I definitely wanted to make sure I picked this up, and it looks really good all the way around. Oh, check that out. It says that the GameCube has Goro and Shao Kahn as exclusive playable characters. I'm not sure if like the PS2 had an exclusive playable character or anything. That's interesting. I actually played this one mostly on the PlayStation 2 back in the day at a friend's house. They had Deadly Alliance. We played through that. Got really excited for Deception. I remember he had actually picked this up. I think his parents got it for him. And then we played this all night over the weekend. And then we have two games I got off of eBay, with the top one being the important game, for me anyway, during this generation. And there's gonna be some arguing. I already know it because I think this is my favorite game in the series for that generation, and it is Dragon Ball Z Budokai, the first one. That's right, not the third one, not like Tenkaichi or any of this stuff. No, the original Budokai. Now, why do I like this one so much? Well, at the time, we came off of Final Bout, which Final Bout was weird. It didn't come out in the US immediately. It came out in Japan, and if you were online at the time really into the Dragon Ball Z scene, you were like discussing power levels, you were finding out about Trunks and the time travel and all this stuff way before it aired on Toonami or any of the dubs or anything. But we got a lot of footage of things like Final Bout, and eventually we got to a position where you could try to even emulate it with like very, very early PlayStation 1 emulators, and it was just terrible. So to go from that to this, which has the full cutscenes, and that is my favorite part around Budokai. It came out on the PS2 first, then it came to the GameCube, and what was really cool about that is the GameCube had a different kind of art style, and I actually liked this one more. It was kind of like cell shaded. They basically had more shadowing on the characters, but I really liked the disc art that they had here because they took advantage of kind of like the CD top. A really cool release overall, and to me, this started everything when it came to the Dragon Ball releases, because we did end up getting a second one, which was the other pickup. I thought I had this in my collection. I was looking through it and I'm like, wow, I don't have this one complete or anything. So of course I had to pick it up. This is another one that has been climbing in value when I wasn't paying attention. I really like the box art of this because it has kind of the color shifting front. We have Vegito right there with Gotenks. There's Goku charging up a very small spirit bomb, and then Kid Buu in the background. And this is one that I didn't like as much as the first one, I know, but they didn't have the cutscenes necessarily. They didn't have like the, I'd say, more straightforward single player. This, you had to go on like this weird looking board and go around, collect items, and you'd fight the same characters over and over again depending on their life meter. And that just kind of got a bit repetitive to me, but they did attempt to have you unlock stuff every time you beat like a Cyberman or you beat Raditz, Nappa, or whoever. And they, of course, expanded the story much further than what they did in Dragon Ball Z Budokai, and they would continue that trend doing like what-if stories and all of this. They changed the art style up a bit here, but I did at least like what they were going for because they attempted to do some really cool looking moves and take advantage of some of the different camera angles. The only issue I have with these two games is they don't support progressive scan on the GameCube, and you can't even force it. It just defaults back to like the 480i interlaced, and it just doesn't look that good. Even through the HDMI connection, you can still kind of see the flickering for the different lines and stuff. So that is kind of unfortunate. I don't know if it's possible to patch them at some point if someone cared enough to do it, or if that's just sort of how it is. Otherwise, You have to go to what the HD collection that they released, and that didn't have the second one, if I remember right, just the first one and the third one, and they did some alterations to the cutscenes that weren't great, so I still stand by the fact that this was my favorite one from the generation, and I think it's still worth playing now. I'm not saying it's like the best fighting game or anything. It's not. It's definitely more of like just an arcade button masher, hit punch a bunch of times, and eventually do a Kamea wave or something, but I think it's still enjoyable, and I think the cutscenes hold up well enough. But that brings us to a game that I was looking for that entire weekend at Too Many Games. I even had talked to people when I was walking the showroom floor and stuff that I was trying to find it. And at one point I did, but it was on the PlayStation 3, and then I found it again, but it was the first one on the Vita. And I was looking for Trails of Cold Steel 2, the Relentless Edition, on the PlayStation 4 specifically, because I'm playing through the first one right now. I'm over 40 hours in, and it's starting to get to the point where it is really grabbing me, and I'm enjoying it, and I know it is, I mean, it is just a trek, because there's 4 different ones, and they're like 60, 70, 80-hour experiences just for the story. But on the way home from Too Many Games, I did find it. This is Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 2 Relentless Edition. On the way home, I stopped by like a secondhand store, and somehow they just had this. I was absolutely shocked because I spent the last 48 hours roaming around asking a bunch of people for this, and eventually I just came across it. And you know what? It wasn't a bad deal. If you find this on like eBay or something in decent condition, they are going upwards of $150 to $200, and this was a good bit below that at the secondhand store. It does have the really cool looking steelbook case. It is complete here, and even has like some really cool reverse cover art. I was trying not to look at it too much because as I'm working through the first one, I know obviously it links right to this one, and it's probably gonna spoil some of the first one that I'm going through now. And then check it out, they even have the full soundtrack here that came with the Relentless Edition, all the track list here. So I was pretty happy to just randomly find it in the store there. As I'm playing through the first one, I'm kind of realizing it probably makes more sense as a handheld game just because there are long parts of the story and everything. It'd be nice to kind of have it as a handheld experience. And unfortunately, I've already started on the PlayStation 4, and I want to transfer some of the bonus stuff that you get from that one onto the second one. And they didn't release it onto the Switch, the first 2 in English. 3 and 4 are on the Switch, so unfortunate there. Maybe someday they'll decide to localize it. They should just do one massive release for the Switch with 1, 2, 3, and 4 and just put it all out there in one big box set. But overall, it was a pretty good weekend, I think, with some of the games that I picked up here, some of the people I met, so shout out to everyone who came out and said hi. It is getting harder to collect, especially for the GameCube right now. I'm hoping, as funny as it sounds, because I have some of the more valuable games now, I'm hoping that the whole thing just crashes at some point so I can finally come in and fill out some of those higher end games like Cubivore and stuff, but who knows at this point, because there are also companies like WATA and stuff that are going in the complete opposite direction that I wanted to, where they're trying to sell sealed games that are graded for tens of thousands of dollars. So it's tough right now to get into the collection aspect for the hobby, but fortunately, there are a lot of really cool advancements that are being made when it comes to emulation and also SD card loaders and stuff for your GameCube, so do with that what you will. But let me know what you guys think about some of the pickups here, and which Dragon Ball game from that generation with the GameCube, the PS2, and I guess even the Xbox with Sagas, which one was your favorite from that generation? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.